Evolving Skies drops in just a couple of days, and today we're going to be talking about some of the cards that you absolutely need to get your hands on. Hey everybody, Nick from 9Card TCG, and today, well, we're going over an Evolving Skies buy list pretty much. We'll also talk about some of the newer decks that are coming out with Evolving Skies, but mostly focusing on the cards that you need to get your hands on. Now, I want to make two quick disclaimers. The first, this is not an investment guide. I do not know the first thing about investing. This is simply for people who play the Pokemon trading card game competitively, or at least somewhat competitively, that these are cards you should get your hands on. Obviously, the cards that you are buying should be relative to the decks that you're playing or decks that you want to play to build your collection, whatever. And the second is that these are cards that we expect to be good or useful based on other content creators and my own play testing and just knowledge of how the game works and synergy and all that kind of stuff. This could very well change. There could be cards on here that are incredible that we don't mention, and we could talk about some stuff that turns out to actually be hot trash. Speaking of hot trash, I feel like garbage, so I apologize if my voice or I sound or look a little bit different. It's just not feeling super hot, but I'm extremely excited for Evolving Skies, and I still want to talk about it, so here we go. Before we get into the actual list, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so you never miss another video. Leaving a like and a comment are the best ways to tell YouTube that this is a good video and other people should watch it, and it helps the channel grow, and I appreciate that a lot, especially if this is your first time watching me or any video on my channel. Thanks for stopping by, I really appreciate it. If you don't know what kind of comment to leave, just say Evolving Skies is going to be awesome or something similar to that. It doesn't have to be an in-depth analysis. It can just be, hey, cool video, something silly. So the way we're going to do this is we are going to just kind of go through the set list. We're not going to talk about every card. Obviously, this is not a set review. It is just talking about some important cards that that you probably should get your hands on. And we're going to start off with this Jump Bluff. It is a Rapid Strike Jump Bluff, and the reason why I think it's so interesting is because of its ability, Fluffy Barrage, which lets you attack twice with this Pokemon in a single turn. Now, obviously, spinning attack does 60 damage and for grass energy, but you don't necessarily need to use spinning attack. You can pair this with the Rapid Strike Scroll from Battle Style to do 30 damage to all of your opponent's Pokemon, which now you're doing 60 damage to all of your opponent's Pokemon, which is really good for finishing off or setting up a big G-Max Rapid Flow the next turn, or finishing up from a G-Max Rapid Flow the previous turn, something like that. Some of the things that make this card incredible is that it is a Rapid Strike Pokemon, so you can search it out with Octillery, Rapid Strike Search. You can also find it with Level Ball because it does have 90 HP, and there's a Skip Bloom, I don't remember exactly which one, that has an ability that lets you evolve it basically right away, so you can get this as early as turn 2 if you have a good hand. And being able to hit for potentially 120 damage with one energy attachment, which you can use Spiral Energy and also search that with Rapid Strike Search because it's a Rapid Strike, and it will fulfill the grass requirement, is pretty good. So not a bad option. You can add extra damage with the Quick Shooting Inteleon, so you can be kind of piling on damage and getting ready to set up a really nice G-Max Rapid Flow. Do I think you need 4 of all of these? Definitely not, unless you're trying to make just like a wacky one prize deck based off of it. But if you're playing Rapid Strike Urshifu, it might be worth getting 2 of all the evolution line just to kind of have and be ready. Glaceon V Max, we're not going to talk too much about it because there's so many other videos about it, but basically it can be an interesting deck. I think a lot of people are putting it in that tier 2 to maybe tier 1.5 depending on how other things shake up, but it's always worth mentioning that Glaceon V Max is a deck that is coming out that can be pretty decent, and yes, it's weak to fire, and Victini V Max is expected to be pretty decent post-rotation, even with the loss of a lot of fire support. However, we have Elemental Badge, which we'll talk about later, that will remove any weakness from this card, so you don't really have to worry about getting hit with super effective damage from Victini. Definitely worth looking into. I'm not going to highlight it, but Gyarados V Max can be a deck, though I don't expect it to be particularly good. But if you love Gyarados and you've been waiting for a Gyarados V or V Max, here's a deck for you. What you should be looking at is Suicune V. No matter what water type deck you're looking to play, it has a really good ability, fleet-footed once during your turn. If it's in the active, you can draw a card. Always great to be able to dig through your deck just a little bit more. And for just 2 energy, you could be doing up to 200 damage, which is pretty cool. It actually will do 220 damage. It does 20 damage base plus 20 more damage for each bench Pokemon in play. It does not have to be V or V Max, just any Pokemon, and that includes yours and your opponent's. If the entire board is filled, then that's 10 Pokemon. 10 times 20 is 200. So you're doing 220 damage for just 2 water energy. Really, really nice. Obviously, it's dependent on how many Pokemon are in play, but you can, I'm sure, make this work somehow. Decks like Inteleon or Ice Rider Calyrex definitely should be picking up 1 or 2 copies. Anything else, I would say have just 1 copy in reserve, because you never know. Ludicolo is an interesting card with the Enthusiastic Dance. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you can use this ability, and why would you not? During this turn, your basic Pokemon's attacks do 100 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, there's really only one deck that comes to mind, and that is Zacian V Inteleon. Now, you can... Brave Blade does 230 damage. Well, if you can get a Ludicolo onto the field, Zacian being a basic Pokemon will now do 330 damage, which means you can gust up an opponent's V-Max that they have on the bench, maybe trying to build some energy on, and take the knockout, which is incredible. You could have another Lombre on the field, scoop up your Ludicolo, and then evolve it next turn to do another 330 damage with either a different Zacian, or if you can somehow maneuver some switching or something like that, to get another enormous knockout and win the game in 2 attacks. It is doable. It is a stage 2, so you can either run your Lombres and your Lotads all the way through. You can run 1-1-1, 2-2-2. You can do, maybe 3 Lotads, 1 Lombre, and then 2 Ludicolos, something like that. Outside of Zacian and Inteleon, I don't know how effective this card is going to be, and even in that deck, you're taking up quite a bit of space, but it is something. So I don't necessarily think everyone needs it, but it could be fun to mess around with. Something that I do think everyone should have a 1 copy of is this Melodic. It's a Rapid Strike Pokemon, and it has the Do Guard ability. Whenever your opponent plays a supporter card from their hand, prevent all effects of that card done to you or your hand. Now, it doesn't say protect your Pokemon, so I don't think this would protect you from boss's orders. It says you or your hand, and you are not your Pokemon. So I'm not 100% sure the ruling on that. So if you know, definitely let me know in the comments. I'm interested. But I don't think boss's orders is included in that. Really, this is to prevent Marnie. That's the big thing this is doing. It does not prevent Reset Stamp. So in that short window that Evolving Skies is out before rotation, it will not prevent Reset Stamp. That is a trainer. It's an item. It is not a supporter, but it will stop Marnie. Maybe get 1 or 2 of Melodic and Feebas, and I don't think it's going to be as popular as I might want it to be, but there might be some decks that would benefit from this, because a Marnie, a really well-timed Marnie by your opponent, can crush your hand and crush your game. It's happened to me, especially when I play any stage 2 deck, like anytime I try to play Decidueye or something like that, and I have like a Rare Candy and a Decidueye ready to go, I somehow always get Marnied. So, maybe some decks will benefit from it. Again, I think maybe 1 or 2 copies of this evolutionary line would be useful. Glaceon V-Max is a deck that I kind of adore. It's a bulkier but slightly worse or more limited Zamazenta. Crystal Veil, prevent all damage from Pokemon V-Max except for other Glaceons. Now, you can still get hit by Pokemon V, and you can still get hit by other Glaceons. However, you have more health than a Zamazenta does, and you can also start sniping the bench when Zamazenta can't. Zamazenta does get rid of special energies, and I do think, it's a decent deck. I think it probably falls into that tier 2 category. I don't think it's going to be super incredible, but it's definitely something that if you want to play a kind of a stall and wall deck and you happen to really like evolutions, this could be an option. Jolteon V Max is an interesting card. It does 100 to the active, and it also does 100 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that has any damage counters on it. Now, you can easily pair this with Quick Shooting Inteleon. You can pair this with Glaceon Zigzagoon just to put a little bit of chip damage or just a tiny bit of damage on something and then hit it for or snipe for 100. You know, it's only 2 energies, and you can use Dynamotor to start attacking this early as turn 2. It's just 100 to the active is not a lot, and it has a really bad weakness in fighting, and it only has 300 HP, so not exactly what you want to see. It'll get one-shot by a Gale Thrust. Right, Gale Thrust that does 150 will now do 300, exactly what it needs to get knocked out. I don't care if you're playing Rayquaza or Jolteon or not, everybody should have a 4 copy of Flappy and Marie. Dynamotor, great ability. It's just something to have, just to have. You never know. I don't, even if you're, like I said, even if you're not playing Rayquaza, you want these cards just to have in your collection, ready to go for anything. Oddly enough, Espeon V and V Max is something I think you should pick up 1 copy of each, especially if you play Shadow Rider. And I'm pretty sure it was Tablemon who was talking about using Espeon V Max as a tech to counter the Shadow Rider Calyrex mirror match. And what happens is, if your opponent doesn't set up, and they have a really poor start and they don't have a lot of energies on the field, then you can punish them with Shadow Rider Calyrex. If they do have a ton of energies on the field, well, then you can punish them with Espeon V Max, because it does max Mind Storm, which does 60 damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. So if they're setting up for a really big G-Max, G-Max Whisk knockout without Creamy V Max, or they just have a ton of energies attached to the Shadow Riders, just kind of spread out, you can really punish them with max Mind Storm and kind of just knock out the Pokemon that has the most energies to it, so that they can't take a counter knockout as easy next turn. If you're not playing Shadow Rider, again, I don't think it's something that you probably need, but the Solar Revelation ability prevent all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to all of your Pokemon that have any energy attached to it can be pretty interesting. This does not prevent Crushing Hammers, because that's not the effect of an attack, and it doesn't prevent damage because damage is not an effect. But basically, if a card attack, you know, like Galarian Zapdos V says discard a special energy and then do damage, you wouldn't discard the special energy. A card says that you get poisoned or you're put to sleep, you prevent those effects to any card that have energy on it. Normally your active Pokemon's going to have energy, and normally most effects will happen to your active Pokemon. Pumpkaboo, it's a common, get 4. Do you need 4? Probably not, but get 4. Why? Because if you have, especially if you have more than one deck, but you just have 4, have a full playset. I mean, could you get away with 2? Yeah. Could you get away with 3? Absolutely. But for the 15-20 cents that this card's probably going to cost, even if it's 50 cents, just get the extra one. Just have a full set. It can't hurt. Pumpkin Pit, when you play this card from your hand to your bench, discard a stadium in play. Useful ability. We've all seen how important Marshadows become in the meta in the past couple of months. So having, now that Marshadow is going to be rotated, having something to do a similar effect is really important. Obviously, this only works when you play it from your hand to the bench, as opposed to putting Marshadow on the bench and being able to discard it whenever. So, but it's 60 HP, and it's a basic Pokemon, so it can easily be searched with Quick Ball, can easily be searched with Level Ball. Just get it and have it. Medicham V. We've all seen Rapid Strike early lists that talk about the importance of Medicham V for the Yoga Loop ability, or attack rather, that if you knock out you put 2 damage counters on any one of your opponent's Pokemon, and if your opponent's Pokemon gets knocked out from Yoga Loop, then you take an extra turn. An entire extra turn. It's incredible. If you are playing Rapid Strike Pokemon, or really any deck, the reason why this works so well at Rapid Strike is because as a Rapid Strike Pokemon, you get access to Rapid Strike Energy, so you can use Yoga Loop for a single attachment, and Rapid Strike Urshifu tends to play the Quick Shooting Inteleon, so that you can set up the proper amount of damage with Rapid Strike Urshifu and with the Inteleon to take the knockout with Yoga Loop. The best thing is it does not have to be to the active Pokemon. So you can do this to any Pokemon, and if they get knocked out, then you take an extra turn. Incredible card. Rapid Strike Urshifu players get 2, everyone else maybe 1 just to kind of have. Jolteon V Max. This is the card. I've been waiting for this card for months. Ever since the Japanese set list for Eevee Heroes was released and we knew we were getting this card, I have been so pumped. I am a single strike player myself. It's the deck that I love to play the most, and now we finally have a card that can make single strike good. Tier 1.5 probably. It's not going to be best deck in format, but it'll definitely be a serviceable deck. It can definitely be competitively viable finally, and if you make the right calls meta-wise, you might be able to do pretty well in a tournament. Will you win? Maybe, maybe not, but you can definitely place, get top cut with single strike Umbreon if it's as good as we expect it to be. I've already bought a playset. I already bought 3 Umbreon V, 3 Umbreon V Max, and I cannot wait to put them in my deck. I already got 1 in the mail. This is going to be one of the more expensive cards that I would recommend players buy. Why? Because it's a really good card, and Umbreon is a super popular Pokemon. So getting a full playset will be a little expensive, especially because you need 6 cards, 6 to 8 of them, depending on the decks you're playing. You might maybe just need 2 of each. So before you spend the money, definitely figure out how many you need. And like I said, I bought 3 of each. They're going all immediately in my deck. But Dark Signal, when you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active. It's a boss's order. It's a boss's order. You can still use Professor's Research. You can still use Marnie. You can still do whatever you need to do. It's a great card, and get 2 to 4 of each. I guarantee it. Get 2 to 4. Thievial is another card. It's basically when you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you can use the Fumbling Hands ability, and it's a Marnie. Each player shuffles their hand, puts it at the bottom of their deck, and each player draws 4 cards. It's a stage 1 Marnie that sits on your bench. You can scoop up net and play it again. Do I think you need it? No. Again, maybe Eternatus can make use of this. Maybe some other Dark Box type deck can make use of this, but maybe a 1/1 if you really like it. You'll probably just get it if you open an ETB or a couple ETBs, some 3-pack blisters. You open a booster box, you'll probably just get one naturally versus just going to buy one. Same like the Pumpkaboos and stuff. You don't necessarily need to buy the cards. If you open enough packs, you will probably get them, but it's things like your Umbreon V and V Max. Unless your box is absolutely insane, you're probably going to have to buy at least some of them. You obviously have your Rayquaza V Max and your Duraludon V Max, which I'm not going to sit here and tell you to go and buy those cards for the sake of buying them. If you want to play those decks, then go ahead and get them. They're probably going to be expensive, similar to Umbreon, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you get a play set of both, because that's unnecessary unless you really want to play the deck. Crystal Cave, on the other hand, is a card that you should get your hands on. Again, it's an uncommon. Open enough packs, you're gonna get them. Maybe you gotta shell out for 1 or something like that, but it's a really good stadium if you're playing any type of Metal or Dragon deck, and considering Zacian V is still around, it's not a bad option even if you're not playing dragons. Elemental Badge. We talked about it a couple of times. What does it actually do? If the Pokemon V this card is attached to has Vaporeon, Jolteon, or Flareon in its name, its attacks cost 1 colorless energy less, and that's awesome. I thought it didn't have a weakness. That must have been a different one. Oh, that's Snowleaf Badge. Snowleaf Badge removes the weakness. This removes 1 colorless from the attack cost. So still a decent card to have. It's uncommon. You'll probably get a couple. I think just opening a single pre-release kit, so the booster packs that came in the build and battle box, plus the 3 my local card store gave me with it, I already picked up a playset of them, so they're super easy to get. Moon and Sun badge is just like Elemental badge. It needs to be attached to an Espeon or an Umbreon V, and whenever your opponent plays a supporter card from their hand, prevent all effects of that card done to this Pokemon. So now we're talking about boss's orders. You can't have your Espeon or your Umbreon bossed up if they have Sun and Moon badge attached. Maybe worth it if you're playing a straight up Umbreon deck or straight up Espeon deck, but I don't think it's super necessary. Raihan, on the other hand, is a card that you should be getting a full playset of. It's a supporter. You can only play it if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn, but you can attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. If you do, search your deck for any card you want and put it into your hand. It's a great supporter, especially for things like Rapidash, like Urshifu, or things that just, it could work well with Eternatus to find, you get Crushing Hammers into oblivion, because Crushing Hammers is seemingly creeping back into the meta, especially post-rotation, so you get Crushing Hammered into the ground. Well, now you can, if you have like a Galarian Moltres on the field, you can use Dire Flame Wings, and potentially play Raihan to get one of those energies back onto your Eternatus if like one was knocked out the last turn, and then search your deck for an energy switch or an energy search or something like that to move or get an additional energy to attach and go straight into attacking. Really good supporter. Highly recommend a full playset. Stormy Mountains, great if you're playing any type of lightning or dragon deck. You could search your deck for a basic lightning or dragon Pokemon and then put it directly onto your bench. So if you're playing anything that uses those types, definitely have them. Otherwise, I'd still recommend having a couple, but it's still an uncommon, so open enough packs and you'll probably just get them. The last card we're going to talk about is Snowleaf badge. If you attach it to an Leafeon or Glaceon V, it has no retreat cost and no weakness. This is particularly good for Leafeon because Leafeon's Grass Knot does damage based on your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost, and you elevate that retreat cost with things like Galar Mine so that you can do more damage. But Galar Mine works on your Pokemon too, and you don't want to discard 2 energies to retreat, so you can attach a Snowleaf badge, and now you have no retreat cost, and it's a great way, and it also prevents or protects you from any type of fire Pokemon like Victini having weakness on you. Some random single price Cinderace deck will no longer knock out your Leafeon V in one shot. So things like that, they're pretty important, but you don't necessarily need it if you're not playing Glaceon or Leafeon V. And there you have it. That's all of the cards that I think you absolutely should get, depending on the deck you're playing, or even just having in reserve depending on how they perform in the coming weeks. If you enjoyed this video or found it just a little bit informative, like I said before, please hit that subscribe button, bell notification so that you don't miss another video. Like, comment, it tells YouTube that this is a good video. Other people should watch it, helps the channel grow. But that is going to do it for me today. I'm going to go get a little bit of rest, and I will see you, I guess, next time. Thanks.